What do? We swim. Swim. Welcome back to Everyday's Movie Ever. My name is Jess and I'm watching Everyday's Movie Ever. Today I'm going to talk about Finding Nemo. Finding Nemo is a 2003 animated theatrical release. It's directed by Andrew Stanton and Lynne Unkrich, cinematography by Sharon, Calahan, Jeremy Lasky, and Jericca, Cleland, supervising animation done by Alan Barillaro and Dylan Brown, editing by David Ian Salter, music by Thomas Newman, and it's written by Andrew Stanton, Bob Peterson, and David Reynolds. This is an absolutely stacked movie cast-wise, and it's also really well balanced. Besides Marlin, Dory, and Nemo, everyone else has pretty even screen time, but that is a really long list of people when the movie genuinely is really just about Marlin, Nemo, and Dory. So I'm only going to list those three, but please keep in mind that we've got an all-star cast and that I don't think less of Gil and Peach and Flo or Deb. Deb is the first one. Or Bubbles or Bruce or Crush or any of those. I just am limiting it to the three main characters. The film stars Albert Brooks as Marlin, Ellen DeGeneres as Dory, and Alexander Gould as Nemo. The idea for Finding Nemo was born at the same lunch that gave birth to many of the iconic films we have seen. Andrew Stanton really was the creator of this movie because of three big things in his life. Number one, he loved seeing the fish tank at his dentist's office. Number two, he loved watching the sharks at the shark tube at the aquarium and was convinced that computer animation could do them justice. And three, one day when he was walking in the park with his son, he realized he was overprotecting him and really made both of them miss out on a wonderful father and son experience. The animation began with an actually fully completed script, which was never really done before. A lot of artists took scuba diving lessons, so they were able to study the reef in real life. William H. Macy was originally cast as Marlin and recorded 90+% of the dialogue when Andrew Stanton decided that he thought Marlin should have a little bit lighter of a touch, and then he heard Albert Brooks, and he considered Albert becoming Marlin saving the film. They also wanted, I believe her name's Megan Mullally, to play Dory when they finally decided that Dory was going to be female. They originally thought Dory was going to be male, but then they decided on female, and they originally wanted Karen Mullally to be Dory, and they wanted her to use her Karen Walker voice from Will and Grace, and she refused, so then she was dismissed. And then Andrew Stanton saw an episode of Ellen where Ellen switched five subjects in a matter of one sentence and decided she would be perfect. Animators took a crash course in fish biology and oceanography, and they combined that with fish movement, human movement, facial expressions to really make the characters feel more alive and expressive. A lot of fun things like Bruce the Shark is named Bruce the Shark because on Jaws, Spielberg named the mechanical shark they used Bruce after his lawyer because it gave him so many problems. They have so many fun little references when Bruce does Here's Brucey. It's a Shining reference with Here's Johnny. The actual Sting from Psycho is used when Darla arrives, which made me genuinely laugh. Other fun little Easter eggs include like the tiki heads inside the tank are modeled after specific people. It's Pixar workers Peterson, Nelson Bohall, and Ricky Nerva. And then a lot of other things. Buzz Lightyear appears, the Pizza Planet truck appears, Mr. Incredible comic is in there. In the credits, Mike Wazowski is seen like snorkeling. What else? The penguins are modeled after something the seagulls are modeled after a penguin in Wallace and Gromit. They do the A113 on the camera. Lots of fun Easter eggs in this one. There is a slight controversy, as is the way with most Disney movies, of Frank Le Calvez thought it struck very strong similarities with his book Pierrot the Clownfish, but the judge dismissed it because they thought there were not nearly enough similarities. It was just also happened to be a clownfish. The film had a $94 million budget, made $940 million in the box office. It's got a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes. Listen to this consensus. Breathtakingly lovely and grounded by the stellar efforts of a well-chosen cast, Finding Nemo adds another beautifully crafted gem to Pixar's crown. Dang. Roger Ebert gave it 4 out of 4 stars. It won the Oscar for Best Animated Feature. It is ranked 10th Best Animated Film of all time. But it did, as much as all this positive stuff happened, it wreaked some unfortunate consequences. Even though the film makes a strong emphasis that aquariums are bad, especially saltwater aquariums that are very hard to maintain, and that the ocean is better, this still drove up sales for tropical fish, which really upset clownfish environments. And then people, when they were too hard to care for, often released their tropical fish back into the ocean, not considering the habitat that they were throwing it back into, which really messed with ecosystems and was really unfortunate. I think clownfish are still, like, kind of endangered-ish because of this, which is really sad. Obviously, we got a sequel called Finding Dory in 2016, which is 13 years after this came out. I didn't realize how big of a gap it was. They had their own little video game, and they obviously have the theme park attractions. The leaps and bounds that they have made technologically between movies is incredible. I mean, just to think about how far we come from Toy Story 1 to this. I remember a long time ago, I was watching the bonus features of Finding Nemo, and I remember they were talking about how they said, I want you to animate a whale, like, under the surface, and you're looking at the surface of the ocean, and you can kind of see, like, the shadow of a whale underneath it, and I want you to make it look as realistic as possible with the technology they had. They were able to make it look so realistic that they had to tell them to reel it back in and make it look a bit more animated, because they wanted the movie to look animated and not so real, like it was just like a live action movie, but visual effects, kind of like Lion King, the live action remake. Are we kidding with that? Don't get me started. This is visually breathtaking. Not only do they capture how stunning the ocean is, but they capture the different lighting in the ocean so well. The difference between what it looks like on Nemo and Marlin's Reef versus what it looks like in the treated sewage section is so amazing. How it looks out in the open ocean where it's a little bit darker, how it looks with the turtles, how it looks with the jellyfish, how it looks with the sunbeams, how it looks with all the like pretty specks of the ocean. It's just so breathtaking and stunning. I think we all know this at this point. It's a genuinely gorgeous film. This movie is really well paced, especially the beginning. They do a really great setup and lead into how we get Nemo taken without it feeling very like forced and rushed and like, no, this wouldn't happen. It's really great. It's genuine. I always say genuine, but like it feels natural. It feels natural how we get to the Nemo getting taken. Nothing feels like, okay, this was a little like phoned in or rushed so they could get to this moment. And then the rest of the movie is really well paced. I feel like it's a good balance between Nemo and the tank and Marlin and Dory. It just is very well paced. Very well paced. I did a double thumbs up, guys. Thomas Newman absolutely hits it out of the park with this score. I think a lot of people agree with me. Thomas Newman also did the score for A Series of Unfortunate Events, and I think they're kind of similar. There's a couple songs that you could be like, but these could be switched. But this soundtrack is so good. The different like little influences he uses, like when Gil is telling Nemo what the plan to break the filter is, it's like a little bit like of a spy Mission Impossible feel like plan song, but then you have something like when the pelican, I think Nigel, is telling the story that he has heard travel of Marlin trying to come get Nemo, that the music in that scene is the music that makes me the most emotional, because that's what Nemo needed to hear to inspire him to try to break the filter again. Like, it's so moving when Nigel's telling the story of everything Marlin and Dory have been through, and like at first Nemo's like, no way, sharks, like my dad would never, and then he knows his dad's name and it's like, oh, that piece of music is the best piece of music. Classic Disney opening with a parent death. You had to, come on. Opening with a parent death? Come on. I think this is really well written, mostly because the three main characters all have an active choice that they're striving for. They are all active. Nemo wants to get out of the tank and get back to his dad. Marlin wants to save his son Nemo. Dory wants to help Marlin and feels a sense of like that home because she's able to stay with Marlin and not be alone. So beautiful. Another thing I really think is so important. Dory and Marlin. Never once in any of their movies has it even been suggested that they be some kind of romantic item. I think for a long time it was very Marlin is much older than Dory, and she's more of in between sister to Nemo, but never. It's much more buddy. It's a buddy comedy, but it's not to only be in two genders, but it's male and female. Where your buddy comedies, Toy Story, is male-male. Anytime, the reason I'm talking about this period is because normally with Disney movies, anytime there is a male and female on screen, they are in love. Anytime a female's in the movie, granted this has gotten a lot better, but if it's a mostly male movie, anytime the female is in the movie, they're meant to be a love interest or something, or an evil witch, who knows. So for this to be genuinely just a buddy film, and they happen to be male and female, is fantastic, and I'm living for it. And the fact that in the second movie, they didn't try to make it weird, is even more fantastic, and I love it. They're just genuinely a family, genuinely found family, and I live for that, and that is another part of it that makes it so well written. I know I mentioned it already, but the cast for this film is out of this world. It's so good. Willem Dafoe as Gil, Brad Garrett, you got Vicki Lewis, you got everyone, you got members of the, Crush is the director, Andrew Stanton, you got Joe Ranft as Jock. Joe Ranft has been an animator forever and has done a couple voices, stacked cast, and they all do such a phenomenal job that I have all intents and purposes to be Andrew Stanton and Lynne Monsoon, such an amazing job getting these actors to get these performances out of them in a booth where they can't see the other actors. It's just so incredible. My history with this movie is actually kind of funny. I wasn't huge on Finding Nemo when I was young. I liked it. Obviously, it's a stellar film. But I didn't watch it a lot. I was very much Lion King 2, Little Mermaid, Aladdin. I was very much a Renaissance gal. Mulan, I was very much those movies. Not to say I didn't like this movie. Obviously, I very much enjoyed this movie. I could quote the shark bait scene. I just didn't watch it as much as some people in my life. Mariah watched this movie every night at bedtime forever. She watched this. She could quote this movie from front to back. And she does. She lives with me, for those who have not gathered. And so last night I was watching this, and Mariah was off doing stuff, but no matter what, I would randomly hear her saying quotes from where I was in the movie, and it was hysterical. The best thing about it, though, is Mariah, growing up, would watch this every night at bed, would always, without fail, skip the first chapter. She hated watching the scene where the mom and the babies all get eaten by the barracuda. She hated it. Every time she'd press play, she'd skip the first chapter, and it starts at the first day of school. So she skips the entire whole sad opening and goes straight to if it started at first day of school, it would make sense. And so I don't think she has seen the beginning with the barracuda since her first time watching it ever. And so yesterday, I had started it, and she was downstairs, and the second that scene was over, and Nemo went, first day of school, all of a sudden I hear Mariah downstairs going, first day of school! So I thought you'd all get a kick out of that. So I didn't see it a lot growing up, but I saw it multiple times in pieces when Mariah would watch it before bed, if we were together. Marlin being mad at Nemo when Nemo wasn't even doing the thing Marlin is worried about is a great way to set up siding with Nemo because Nemo was following the rules and being yo, Marlin's being way too much, but also being able to be like, okay, but Marlin is so afraid because of what has happened. I could understand how it could look like Nemo was going to go off the drop-off or whatever else. So I think they do a really great job of setting that up. Again, I've already mentioned how the story, like when Nigel's telling the story of everything Marlin and Dory have been through, is amazing. That's the best scene. And then the scene that really gets me is the moment, that never really got me as a kid, is the moment that Marlin sees Nemo pretending to be dead in the bag. That scene, it just, everything comes to a full stop, because he sees his kid and he thinks his kid is dead, and it makes like this whole thing, like, he's finally made it to the freaking den. He's been through everything possible. Sharks, jellyfish, like whales, just everything you can imagine. He's in the mouth of a pelican who's not eating him. And he sees his kid and he thinks his kid is dead, so he thinks he's too late. He thinks the entire journey has been for nothing. It is such a crushing moment. And then for him to, like, Nemo to hear his dad say, Nemo, and then leave, and Nemo to be like, Dad? Like, oh, it's so good. It's so sad. It just gets you right in the feels. There is an after credits, which I had never seen, and I brought Mariah in, and she had never seen it, and she said she was probably always asleep by then, which made me laugh, because that's true. She always watched it at bedtime. But so during the credits, there's some Easter eggs, like the Mike Wazowski snorkeling. But at the very, very end, that tiny little green fish that one of the sharks brought to the Fisher Friends Not Food meeting, runs into the anglerfish, which is the light bulb fish. And that tiny little green fish eats the anglerfish, which was a really fun little twist, which I had never seen before. So that really made me happy. All I can say about this is it's really, really good. Okay, guys? It's a fantastic film. It deserves all the credit it has. It's really, really good. I love it. That's all I got. If you've never seen Finding Nemo, highly recommend. It's a great one. It's in the top 10 animated films of all time. So, you might want to check it out. That's everything I have. My final rating is 9. Should I do clownfish? That feels a little tacky, but 9 clownfish out of 10. Our total movie count is. Our parent death toll is. Cry count is still the same. If you want to keep up with what movie I'm watching when, follow me on Instagram or Twitter. You'll find out what movie I'm watching when. I put out videos every Monday and Friday and sometimes Wednesday. Join Patreon, $1 tier, where you get every video a week early, and you also get a coupon code for merch. But then we got $5 tier, $10 tier, $20 tier, $40 tier, no, $15 tier. 1, 5, 10, 20, 40. Lots of fun stuff, okay? Bonus content. Daily trivia. Please go participate in the daily trivia, okay? Please. Okay. Until next time, come on. Buy merch. Merch is great. Merch is grand. We stand. Until next time, come on, subscribe. I'm not sure if in real life you are, so you do. And don't be Darla about it. We did it.